Moana Live-Action is imagined as a sweeping cinematic re-envisioning of a beloved story, bringing a familiar journey into a more grounded, emotionally rich, and visually immersive form. The film retains the soul of the original tale while expanding its scope, leaning into realism, cultural depth, and the raw beauty of the ocean. From the very first moments, the story establishes a powerful connection between land, sea, and identity, presenting the island world not as a backdrop, but as a living presence that shapes every character's destiny. The story once again centers on Moana, a young woman born into leadership yet driven by an unexplainable pull toward the horizon. In this live-action version, her inner conflict feels more intimate and human, shaped by responsibility, doubt, and curiosity. She is raised to protect her people and preserve tradition, but the ocean continues to call to her in subtle, persistent ways. This pull is not portrayed as magical convenience alone, but as a deep spiritual bond tied to ancestry, nature, and purpose. Moana's struggle is less about rebellion and more about understanding who she is meant to become. Her island is portrayed with rich detail, emphasizing daily life, rituals, and the unspoken weight of leadership passed down through generations. The community depends on the land and sea, and when imbalance begins to appear, it is felt not just through events, but through mood, silence, and unease. Crops fail, fish disappear, and elders grow fearful of what lies beyond familiar waters. These moments ground the story emotionally, making the threat feel real and urgent rather than abstract. Moana's family relationships play a crucial role in shaping her journey. Her bond with her parents reflects the tension between protection and trust. Her father's fear of the ocean is rooted in loss and responsibility, making his resistance understandable rather than controlling. Her mother quietly supports Moana's curiosity, representing balance and emotional intuition. The memory of her grandmother acts as a guiding force, connecting Moana to forgotten history and reminding her that courage and leadership often require listening to the past. When Moana finally answers the ocean's call, the journey feels earned and daunting. The sea is no longer stylized fantasy alone, but vast, unpredictable, and humbling. Storms feel dangerous, isolation feels heavy, and survival depends on resilience rather than luck. The ocean itself is treated as a character, responding to Moana's respect, fear, and determination. This relationship evolves slowly, reinforcing the idea that nature cannot be controlled, only understood. The introduction of Maui adds both scale and contrast to the narrative. He is portrayed as powerful yet deeply flawed, carrying the weight of fame, regret, and insecurity. His larger-than-life reputation clashes with moments of vulnerability that reveal a character shaped by abandonment and the need for validation. In live-action form, Maui's presence feels imposing, but his emotional arc becomes more pronounced, allowing audiences to connect with him beyond humor and spectacle. The dynamic between Moana and Maui is central to the film's heart. Their relationship is built on friction, reluctant trust, and gradual understanding. Moana challenges Maui not through strength but through empathy and persistence. She sees beyond his bravado, recognizing pain beneath confidence. Maui, in turn, begins to respect Moana not as a child or follower, but as a leader in her own right. Their journey together becomes one of mutual growth rather than simple partnership. The quest itself revolves around restoring balance to the world, a concept portrayed with greater thematic depth in the live-action adaptation. The loss at the heart of the conflict is not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. Nature's anger is presented as a response to betrayal and neglect rather than pure destruction. This reframing gives the antagonist's presence a tragic dimension, encouraging reflection on accountability, harmony, and respect for creation. As Moana and Maui travel across islands and open waters, the film expands the world with diverse environments and cultures, each reflecting different relationships with the ocean. These encounters reinforce the story's larger message that the sea connects people rather than divides them. Every stop adds texture to the journey, revealing legends, warnings, and forgotten truths that guide Moana closer to understanding her role. The challenges they face are not limited to external threats. Doubt, fear, and failure become recurring obstacles, Mona experiences moments of deep uncertainty where leadership feels overwhelming and the cost of her choices becomes clear. These moments are handled quietly, often through stillness and expression rather than dialogue. The film allows silence to carry meaning, reinforcing the emotional weight of her decisions. The magical elements are presented with restraint, blending realism and myth in a way that feels organic. Transformations, creatures, and supernatural forces are woven into the environment rather than standing apart from it. This approach makes the fantasy feel grounded, as if these myths could plausibly exist within the natural world. Visual effects serve the story rather than dominate it, emphasizing wonder without overwhelming emotion. The idea of identity is central throughout the film. Mona's journey is as much about self-recognition as it is about saving her people. She learns that leadership is not defined by perfection or obedience, but by courage, compassion, and the willingness to listen. Her strength lies not in defeating enemies, but in restoring what was broken through understanding and respect. As the story builds toward its climax, the emotional stakes reach their peak. The final confrontation is not driven by spectacle alone, but by revelation. Truth replaces fear, and understanding replaces conflict. Mona's growth culminates in a moment that reflects the film's core philosophy. Healing begins when history is acknowledged rather than erased. This resolution feels earned, powerful, and deeply human. The ending carries a sense of renewal rather than finality. Balance is restored, but the journey leaves lasting change. Mona returns not just as a hero, but as a bridge between tradition and progress. Her people begin to reconnect with the ocean, not as something to fear, but as a source of identity and connection. The final moments emphasize continuity, legacy, and hope. The release of Moana Live-Action is positioned as a cinematic event that honors cultural roots while embracing modern storytelling. The anticipation surrounding the film stems from its promise to deliver emotional authenticity alongside breathtaking visuals. Rather than relying on nostalgia alone, the adaptation aims to deepen the story's impact, offering something meaningful for both longtime fans and new audiences. Trailer moments implied within the film's structure focus on sweeping ocean shots, intimate character moments, and glimpses of myth brought to life. The emphasis is placed on emotion, scale, and atmosphere rather than plot revelation. Music, waves, and silence work together to create a sense of awe and connection, inviting viewers into an experience rather than explaining it. The cast performances are imagined as grounded and sincere, prioritizing emotional truth over exaggeration. Mona's portrayal emphasizes vulnerability, strength, and quiet determination. Maui's performance balances charm with emotional depth, allowing his transformation to feel natural and earned. Supporting characters contribute warmth and realism, anchoring the story in human relationships. Music remains a vital element of the film, though it is integrated in a more naturalistic way. Songs and themes emerge from moments of emotion and tradition rather than interrupting the narrative. The score blends cultural influences with cinematic orchestration, enhancing the sense of place and emotional resonance without overpowering the story. Visually, the film celebrates natural beauty. Sunlight on water, wind through palm leaves, and the vastness of open sea are captured with reverence. These visuals reinforce the film's themes, reminding viewers of humanity's smallness within nature and the importance of coexistence. Every frame feels designed to immerse the audience in Mona's world. At its core, Moana Live-Action is a story about listening to history, to nature, and to oneself. It speaks to the fear of stepping beyond comfort and the courage required to embrace responsibility. The film avoids simplifying its message, instead allowing complexity and emotion to coexist, making the journey feel authentic and relatable. By the time the story concludes, the audience is left with a sense of reflection rather than spectacle alone. The film encouraged viewers to consider their own connection to heritage, environment, and purpose. Mona's journey becomes symbolic of a universal struggle, finding balance between who we are, where we come from, and who we choose to become. Ultimately, Moana Live-Action stands as a modern myth told with respect, beauty, and emotional depth. It honors the spirit of the original story while expanding its meaning, offering a cinematic experience that resonates beyond the screen. Through its focus on identity, harmony, and courage, the film reminds audiences that the greatest journeys are not measured by distance, but by understanding.